After a day of grief following the deadliest terror attacks in Jerusalem in years, the capital, Jerusalem, has buried the victims, and the seriously wounded are being treated in the hospital. After the attack, security forces raided the village of the perpetrators. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
The victims of yesterday's mass shooting in Jerusalem have been laid to rest. Among the victims were several ultra-Orthodox rabbis, and many mourners gathered to honor the memories of the victims. 6 Israelis were murdered and more than a dozen wounded when 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop near a remote junction. 2 victims remain in hospital in serious condition. The Shin Bet has identified the terrorists as 21-year-old Mohammed Taha and 20-year-old Muthana Amro, both from villages near Ramallah. Security officials say the 2 were heavily armed and had planned a large-scale massacre before being killed by Israeli forces. IDF Chief Eyal Zamir visited the scene of the attack and announced a full closure of the villages where the attackers came from. He vowed that the army will dismantle what he called terror nests across Judea and Samaria. Overnight, Israeli forces carried out a series of raids in the Ramallah and Jenin areas, arresting suspects, seizing weapons, and confiscating terror funds worth tens of thousands of shekels. Elite Duvdevan unit reservists captured one operative who was plotting future attacks. Israeli officials say the deadly shooting underscores the need for relentless counter-terror operations and international recognition of the threat Israel faces daily from Palestinian terror groups.
And Prime Minister Netanyahu delivered a blunt and threatening message to the residents of Gaza City. The IDF is coming. Leave now or else. At the same time, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar is saying a Trump-backed ceasefire could happen if Israeli conditions are met. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
Prime Minister Netanyahu and Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar are taking a somewhat different approach in messaging Israel's interest in quickly ending the war in Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu stressed the urgent need for Gazan residents to get out of Gaza City ahead of the approaching IDF Gaza offensive designed to capture the city. Netanyahu claimed that Israel has destroyed 50 terror towers in Gaza City over the past 2 days, and that was just a prelude to what's coming. In a message recorded from the Israeli Air Force Operations Room, Netanyahu vowed that Israel will destroy Hamas and has warned Gazan residents to leave now.
אני הבטחתי לכם לפני ימים אחדים שאנחנו נפיל את מגדלי הטרור בעזה. זה בדיוק מה שאנחנו עושים. ביומיים האחרונים 50 מגדלים כאלה נפלו. חיל האוויר הוריד אותם. עכשיו כל זה רק מבוא, רק ספתח. לפעולה העצימה העיקרית, וזה תמרון קרקעי של כוחותינו שמתארגנים עכשיו ומתכנסים לתוך העיר עזה. ולכן אני אומר לתושבי עזה, אני מנצל את ההזדמנות הזאת ותקשיבו לי טוב. ראו הוזהרתם. צאו משם.
At about the same time, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar was appearing at a press conference in Budapest, where he claimed that Israel has already said yes to the new Trump-backed ceasefire plan for Gaza if certain Israeli conditions are met.
President Trump said it clearly yesterday. Israel said yes to his proposal. We are ready to accept a full deal that would end the war based on the cabinet decision. 2 things must happen. 1, the return of our hostages. We still have 48 hostages kidnapped from their homes on October 7th being held in Gaza today. Second thing, Hamas must lay down its arms.
In the end, the Israeli Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister have said the same things, but with a different tone. Netanyahu says, get out now, the IDF is coming to Gaza City. And the Foreign Minister is saying the IDF operation in Gaza City is still avoidable if there is a ceasefire. But this can happen only if Israeli conditions for ending the war are met.
And it's day 704 of the war in Gaza. The army announced the deaths of 4 soldiers who were killed in a Hamas attack on the outskirts of Gaza City. The fallen were named as Staff Sergeant Uri Lamed, 20 years old, from Tel Mond, Sergeant Amit Aryeh Regev, 19, from Modi'in, Sergeant Gadi Kotal, 20, from Kibbutz Afikim, and Lieutenant Matan Abramovitz, 21, from Ganei Tikva. All of the fallen served in the 401st Armored Brigade's 52nd Battalion. May their memories be a blessing. According to a preliminary IDF probe, 3 Hamas operatives launched an attack on an army encampment in the Kfar Jabalia area on the outskirts of Gaza City's Sheikh Radwan neighborhood. The incident took place shortly after troops had returned to the outpost following overnight activity. The operatives reached a tank to the entrance of the encampment and opened fire at the commander, who had his head outside the armored vehicle's open hatch. The gunmen then hurled an explosive device inside the tank, leading to the deaths of the 4 soldiers. The probe also found that other soldiers stationed in the encampment returned fire at the fleeing gunmen, with at least 2 of them being hit. And meanwhile, Israeli officials are casting doubt tonight on the latest ceasefire proposal, as Hamas insists it cannot hand over all the hostages at once. According to reports in the Saudi daily newspaper, Hamas informed mediators that both living hostages and the bodies of those murdered cannot be returned immediately. The terror group claims some remains are buried under rubble or in areas now controlled by the IDF. The American-backed proposal, supported by Jerusalem, demands the release of all 48 hostages on the very first day of any ceasefire. In return, Washington would guarantee that Israel would not resume military operations as long as negotiations continue. But senior Israeli officials say Hamas is unlikely to accept. One told the Jerusalem Post that Hamas won't give up all the hostages right at the start. It's simply unrealistic. Hamas is also pushing for a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, a demand Israel says is off the table at this stage. Behind the scenes, however, channels remain active, with sources describing intense dialogue between Israel, the U.S., and Qatari and Egyptian mediators. And joining us now with more on the latest in the Gaza war on day 704 is former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Dani Ayalon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure, Lidar.
So, a new deal for a temporary ceasefire and the release of all the hostages is now on the table. According to Trump, Israel has accepted this deal. Gideon Sa'ar, Israel's foreign minister, has confirmed. Hamas has yet to offer any serious response. Now, we hear Trump threatening Hamas again with an escalation, but we've heard all of this before. Trump has issued ultimatums like this before. We heard, all hell will break loose. Will Hamas actually take it seriously this time, or do they see these as empty threats again? I mean, what's your analysis of this latest stage of the hostage negotiations?
Well, Lidar, what has been obvious actually for the last 2 years, I would say, from the Hamas establishment back in the 80s, is that it's a ruthless, radical organization which does not care at all about its people. Actually, they use the people of Gaza as hostages for their nefarious objectives, which is actually to annihilate the state of Israel. This is what their charter says, and they have not changed one iota in the last 40-some years. They use the Gazans as cannon fodder, as human shields, and this will continue. It is also very hard to believe that Hamas will give up the hostages, because this is, in their mind, their only defense line, or the only assurances that they have against total decimation of all of them in Gaza. So this is why I believe that President Trump, in the last, I would say, last minute or last trial, to try to convince the people of Gaza to leave Gaza, clear it up, and then the IDF can go in and just destroy all the left over Hamas positions. Whether this works or not, it's still remains to be seen. But one thing has been clear, Lidar, is that without this pressure, Hamas would not come really reasonably and with clean hands to the table. Their negotiation tactic has always been to get the maximum demands. They have not changed their demand from almost 2 years ago until now. And this now new approach, where is a credible military threat to the entire people of Gaza and the Hamas, especially in the Gaza City, is to try and change this position. On the other hand, the political pressure increases, not enough in my mind. I believe that the Qatari should do much more. The leaders of Hamas, which stay in 5-star hotels in Doha, Qatar, if they were threatened that they would be arrested or expelled and their lives would be at the mercy of the Israeli intelligence and security agencies, maybe that, these two pressures, the military and the political, maybe will yield fruit. And if not, Israel has no choice but to make good on its threats.
Because Israel has stated as its war goal the elimination of Hamas. And by all appearances, at least, it is moving ahead with the planned Gaza City takeover. Now, I want to ask, are the U.S. and Israel on the same page here? Because should Hamas suddenly accept a ceasefire, which does seem unlikely, but should it accept, it would be given a lifeline, as its infrastructure in Gaza City would remain intact. There would be a ceasefire. It would allow it time to regroup. I mean, what do you make of this?
Well, first of all, I think they do. Israel are on the same page. And actually, President Trump himself said that he yields to Israel to decide how to continue the operation. He's giving it its full endorsement and backing. I think the only difference would be that the Americans not, I would say, not in their own words, but through leaks, believe that the war should be over by the year end, which means there's still 4 more months, which is ample time to do what Israel needs to do over there militarily. And the fact that Trump himself told Hamas that they should release all the hostages at once or else, that should be very credible in line of the fact that the Israeli troops are really advancing and circling Gaza very closely. Basically, about 75 to 80% of all the Gaza Strip territory is under Israeli command. We have, of course, the city of Gaza, which is, of course, the most populated area, not only in Gaza, by the way, in the world. But now, as Gazans understand that Israel is serious, more and more of them are leaving, and I guess close to 1 million are on their way out.
Now, U.S. President Trump initially floated an idea of a sort of a U.S. takeover of Gaza, the relocation of Palestinians in order to rebuild Gaza and eradicate terror or all the terror infrastructure from the Strip. As far as you know, is this plan still on the table? Is it feasible?
Well, it would be, I would say, feasible only on one condition, that there would be countries allowing the Palestinians to immigrate to their lands and to accept them over there. At this point, I don't see any countries do that. Quite the contrary, the neighboring countries, Arab countries, which would be the most natural to receive the Palestinians, do not want it, and they actually put a red line for that. Overseas countries are still not, I would say, volunteering to accept them, and that would be actually the challenge. How to make sure that these who want to leave, and I understand that according to some surveys, maybe up to 50% of Gazans would like to leave Gaza. The challenge would be how to allow them a free passage out of the city and to receiving countries.
Ambassador Dani Ayalon, thank you so much for joining us tonight and for your insights.
My pleasure.
Jerusalem, 1913. There's an epidemic. Up to 90% of children had trachoma. Thousands went blind. Yet one woman had a vision. It started with 2 nurses from America, and today it's 2 world-renowned medical centers, treating more than 1 million people a year, plus youth villages, saving hundreds of thousands since the Holocaust. This is the work of Hadassah, America's largest Jewish women's organization. and a life-changing force in Israel. We helped build Israel's health infrastructure, saved lives during every war and crisis. And now, Hadassah hospitals are pioneering personalized medicine with robotics, 3D printing, AI, and providing essential trauma care. For over 100 years, our vision has been clear: to help heal our world. This is Hadassah.
And Israel launched airstrikes in northeastern Lebanon, killing 5 Hezbollah terrorists at a military training base. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the details.
The IDF strikes on a Hezbollah training base come amid the terror group's refusal to disarm, despite Lebanese government demands that it do so. Even with the ceasefire ongoing, Israel continues to hit Hezbollah targets when they are found to be in violation of understandings between Jerusalem and Beirut. The strikes in northeastern Lebanon near Syria, far from the country's border with Israel, are rare. IDF Arabic military spokesman Avichai Edri said the Air Force targeted Hezbollah positions and infrastructure, including a training area for the group's elite Radwan forces. The facilities were used to train operatives and prepare attacks against IDF troops and Israel, including gunfire drills and other weapons exercises. The army said the storage of the weapons and the activities of the Hezbollah terror organization at these sites constitute a blatant violation of the understandings between Israel and Lebanon and constitute a threat to the state of Israel. The statement went on, the IDF will continue to operate to remove any threat to the state of Israel and will prevent the reestablishment of the Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon. Last November, a ceasefire went into effect requiring Hezbollah to withdraw north of the Litani River.
And we're excited to feature Nathaniel Buzalik, or Nate Buzz, an accomplished actor and human rights activist, as he shares his spiritual journey from the sets of Hollywood to the streets of Jerusalem. Catch him in episode 2 of our special new series with Israel Bonds, one-on-one with Lidar Gravelazi. I'm excited to announce our second episode, so join us September 17th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Scan the QR code on your screen to RSVP. And moving on, tensions are escalating between Israel and Spain as relations hit an all-time low. Jerusalem is openly accusing the left-wing Spanish government of leading a hostile anti-Israel line with wild rhetoric dripping with hatred. That's a direct quote from Israel's Foreign Affairs Minister. All the details in the following report. On Monday, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced new punitive actions against the state of Israel.
El gobierno de España ha decidido dar un paso más y poner en marcha de forma inmediata 9 acciones adicionales para detener el genocidio en Gaza, para perseguir a sus ejecutores y para apoyar a la población palestina.
Among the measures, Spain will ban Israel-bound ships and aircraft carrying weapons from docking at Spanish ports or entering Spanish airspace. Madrid will also increase aid to the Palestinian Authority and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA, and will impose an embargo on goods made in Israeli settlements. Spain will also ban anyone who has participated directly in what Sanchez qualified as genocide from entering the country. In response, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar said that Sanchez was trying to divert public attention from his domestic corruption scandals and slammed the measures as anti-Semitic. Israel also announced sanctions against 2 Spanish ministers over what it calls violent and anti-Semitic statements. Sa'ar announced that Deputy Prime Minister Yolanda Diaz and Youth Minister Sira Rego will be banned from entering Israel, and all official contacts with them are now cut off. Both politicians had accused Israel of genocide and openly called for boycotts and sanctions against the Jewish state in the aftermath of Hamas's October 7th massacre. Madrid responded angrily, with Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez recalling Spain's ambassador from Tel Aviv for consultations. He claimed Israel's actions were unacceptable and slanderous. Jerusalem, however, is standing firm, accusing the left-wing government in Madrid of pursuing a hostile anti-Israel line. Israeli officials stress that incitement and hate speech from European leaders cannot be ignored, particularly as Israel continues its war against Hamas terror.
Every expert would have told you that Israel's day had passed And Iran was the regnant power in the Middle East. And so far, tiny Israel has succeeded in neutralizing all of the Iranian air defenses, virtually all of them, the security leaders of Iran. One of the key ways we did it is through innovation. And that innovation, as you know, came from the Technion. I was involved intimately with the development and funding of Iron Dome, of David Sling, Arrow 2. None of that would have been possible without Technion. The university has played a pivotal role in saving thousands of lives. Technology is a type of Iron Dome for the society as itself. And it's not just a localized Iron Dome, it's a globalized Iron Dome. We have to invest. As we invest in R&D, we have to invest in the minds behind R&D. Israel has to make itself indispensable to the world. And the only way we're going to do this is through technology. It's Israeli technologies that are not only helping to forge the 21st century, but it also enhances the security of American families, American individuals from now into the future.
And meanwhile, officials of the Islamic Republic of Iran claim that talks between Tehran and the International Atomic Energy Agency have been positive. The details in the following report.
Tehran and the IAEA are discussing whether a full resumption of inspection of 3 Iranian nuclear sites can restart. The sites were bombed by Israel and the United States in June. Iran passed a law after the attacks suspending cooperation with the IAEA and said any inspections had to be approved by its Supreme National Security Council. On Monday, the watchdog's chief, Rafael Grossi, said time is running out in talks on how to fully resume inspections in the Islamic Republic, adding that he hoped the discussions would conclude within days. The talks between Iran and the IAEA are taking place against the backdrop of Europe's top 3 powers, having initiated a 30-day process on August 28th to reimpose sanctions on Iran. France, Britain, and Germany, known as the E3, said they will reimpose sanctions under the so-called snapback process unless IAEA inspections fully resume in Iran. They have also said Tehran must account for its largest stock of near-weapons-grade uranium and resume nuclear talks with the United States. Iran has flatly rejected any talks over its defense capabilities, like its missile program.
And our final story tonight, heartbreak once again for Israeli soccer fans, as for yet another year, Israel does not qualify to play in the prestigious World Cup games. Yesterday's qualifier game against the Italian national team was held on neutral grounds in Hungary, and the match was incredibly close for the majority of the game. Although the Italian team scored the first goal, Team Israel was able to maintain a differential of 1 point and even matched the score at the opening of the second half. But the final goal was scored by Italy, ending the game in a whopping 5-4 to Italy. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 21 degrees Celsius or 71 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside hot temperatures with highs of 31 degrees Celsius or 87 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and our new live channel, and you can also catch us on Screen IL with 24/7 live coverage. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.